housing is not a commodity. There are different structures in different markets and markets in different places of their evolution, and that's why when in designing, you work with the province and the province works locally, and that's why you see all the individuals up here, because they're representing that.
As a follow-up, I'd like to hear more about converting empty condos into homes for people. Does that involve the government buying extra stock from developers and then renting those out, or reselling them? Are there details you can give us on that?
You have two things. I mean, there's different models, and we'll work through the modalities and bring it out in the fall, is what I said in French. But you can do both, and my view, experts will design it, but one would look to do both. Effectively, though, what you're doing is buying them at a price, spreading out the financing, because you can do that, the financing of the underlying condo at our financing rate, but targeting at a level that is affordable. So, and it is a way to clear off on the books of this overhang. Yeah.
Next question.
Hi, my name is Rob Buffum. I work at CTV, and my question is for the Prime Minister. It's on behalf of a colleague, and it relates to CUSMA. President Trump, as you'll know, has made a range of comments on how he feels about CUSMA, including yesterday talking about his preference for it terminating immediately. I guess they want to know, you've obviously been in frequent conversation with the president. What are your thoughts as to whether he actually wants to see it extended for 16 years, keep it for 10, or get rid of it right away?
Well,
I'd welcome a prediction on today's game.
Prediction on today's game. Well, okay. Let me start with the easy one. First off, I think today's game. I think it's going to be a great game. I think it's going to be a great match because the Qataris they're a good side. We saw it against Switzerland. It wasn't just the late goal, but the way they were organized, and they're tough at the back. Canada's it's an exciting team. It's an attacking team. Alphonso Davies is going to be back, suited up. He's on the bench. We're recovering from our injury, so we've got a lot of options. We're great at the back. We've got a great keeper. So I think it's going to be great. The atmosphere is going to be unbelievable in BC Place. The atmosphere on Granville, the atmosphere around here, atmosphere everywhere is unbelievable. You can feel it in the city. So it's going to be a great game, and I can't remember what the first part of your question was about.
Does Trump want to get rid of it right away?
I know. No, look. I think, as you say, I had a number of conversations with the president in parallel in the last few days at the G7 on a range of issues, including some of the commercial aspects. But there were very detailed, a series of technical conversations. That slightly diminishes them, I just call it that way, but Minister LeBlanc, who's responsible for this, our chief negotiator, Ambassador Greer, who is the U.S. Trade Representative, we continue to work through a number of issues which are all related. And what I'll refer to is, let me take Ambassador Greer's testimony to Congress on a variety of occasions. In effect, the underlying structure of CUSMA has been preserved. It continues to operate for 85% of our exports. Without any action, it will remain in place for the next decade. There's an opportunity to extend it. There's always been the opportunity for any of the parties to cancel it with 6 months' notice. It's no secret the president in recent years has not been the biggest fan of CUSMA or other trade deals, but there are specific things that we can work together on, and including, I'll just put on the table, since we're in British Columbia and we're talking housing, on forest products, which we continue to press with the Americans. Thank you.
My follow-up's for Premier Eby. Premier Eby, there was a poll out yesterday you'll be aware of from Angus Reid that showed your party trailing the Conservatives by 11%, and people are dissatisfied with things ranging from affordability to housing to health care. The latest cost estimate for FIFA ranges up to $729 million. How important for you is it that this thing goes off successfully? How much is invested in terms of your government with people catching FIFA fever and probably fueled by a win today from Canada?
Well, the priorities for British Columbians are what we're talking about here today. It's affordable housing, it's affordability generally, it's strong public services, healthcare, transit, and it's jobs and opportunity. It's what we're working with the federal government on all the time. I sure hope Canada wins. But in terms of the election 2 years from now, what are people going to be looking at? It's like, do I see an opportunity for myself to get into the housing market as a young person? Do I see a future for myself in the province? Do I have opportunities for high-paid jobs to deal with affordability issues? Has the government been working where they can to drive down hydro rates, car insurance rates? And what are the proposals of the other party? The key for any poll, especially right now, is that a very large number of people are undecided. They are looking for governments to deliver on their priorities. That's what our government will be focused on for the next 2 years. And then the ultimate poll will take place, which is the election. And the Prime Minister himself will tell you that the certainty of the media and pollsters in the lead up to an election is not necessarily a predictor of the outcome of any election.
Next question. Prochaine question.
Michelle Gassoub, CBC. 2 questions for the Prime Minister from colleagues in Ottawa. Was a foreign entity involved in a criminal for hire network that is behind shootings at Toronto synagogues and the U.S. consulate?
I won't comment on specific investigations underway.
Follow-up.
And you recently said the American and Israeli military action against Iran was worth it. Do you believe that military action was necessary to get the deal that the U.S. and Iran now have?
I think, as I said in recent days, that I welcome the deal that President Trump has negotiated, and I want to, particularly today, acknowledge the leading role that His Highness the Emir and his Prime Minister Al-Thani, played in helping to bring this conflict to an end, or create the possibility with this agreement to an end. And we had extensive discussions about the agreement with the Emir, with His Highness Sheikh Mohammed of the United Arab Emirates, with President al-Sisi, with other players in the region and beyond. And what's important now is to make this work, because what it does is it creates more than a framework, but it creates a foundation to achieve peace. And what's necessary for that peace is a few items that I'm just going to underscore. The first is why this all started, which is ensuring that Iran does not acquire a nuclear weapon. That is at the heart of this agreement. It's all anchored in and around that. There is a exceptionally broad coalition of countries now that are dedicated to that in the region, beyond the region, and Canada fully supports that. We supported that objective from the start. Secondly, that the broader aspects of this conflict, particularly in Lebanon, are addressed. It is part of the agreement. Thirdly, that the financial elements and other elements of the agreement are performance-based, so that they're not, there's no automaticity to them. It's actually progress with respect to the strait and with respect to denuclearization. And fourthly, and this is crucial, and I want to underscore this, you will see it in the joint statement of G7 leaders that came out in the last 24 hours, that we take the broader opportunities that are created by this agreement. Let me be very specific. You saw G7 come together and reinforce the intention for actual, Canada did on the day, but also the intent of further sanctions on Russia to end the senseless slaughter in Ukraine. The resolve there has been redoubled and broadened, including the economic sanctions there, because, in part for some, because of the stabilization in oil markets and others, and also the broader efforts for broader peace in the Middle East, very much including Gaza and the West Bank. Thank you.
Next question.
Kurt Black, City News. Also a question for the Prime Minister. I'm glad you brought up the G7 leaders there were quite favorable about the role that Canada could play in providing energy supplies to the global market. Some analysts, though, have been kind of skeptical on whether just one new pipeline to the West Coast, an oil pipeline, would be enough to keep up with demand. Is your government hoping to build more pipelines than the one that's being discussed with Alberta?
So thank you for raising that question, because it was significant. And let me give the quick context and answer your question directly. The first is that you always need to apply the lessons of a crisis, certainly a war, a conflict. One of the lessons of this conflict is might have been obvious to some going into it, but it's certainly obvious to everyone now, of the extreme risk created by the concentration and the risks of the Strait of Hormuz. There's a need to diversify energy infrastructure in that region itself. I won't go into all the details, but there was discussions of multiple pipelines and new energy infrastructure in that region so that the export in future would not be 100% dependent on the Strait of Hormuz and very serious part. And within that context, the G7 and the broader partnership recognize the very considerable contribution that Canada and British Columbia can and is and will make to energy diversification. Why do I say that? Yes, there's discussion, as you know, of a coastal pipeline and expansion of TMX, two important contributors, but LNG too, silicims, wood fiber. I mean, these extraordinary projects that only Canada, and I would say only Canada and British Columbia can do, which are Indigenous partnerships, low carbon LNG trains. So in other words, the actual liquefaction in that process is best in class, top quartile, top decile, in some cases ultimately net zero. And that's supplying energy to Asia. But as we've seen in the last few weeks with the German deals, Uniper beyond the 3 megatons that have been signed for silicim, also to Europe. So there's an acknowledgement of all of that diversification. Last point. There's also acknowledgement, not in that sentence, but in the discussions, that we have an opportunity to double our clean grid in this country. Clean power grid, of course, I'm in British Columbia where hydros plays such a crucial role, but we have other assets across the country. And in doing so, we can be a clean power supplier, first and foremost for Canadians in an affordable way, but also for manufacturing, for artificial intelligence, if that's appropriate. That's what we want to do. And that is a huge contribution to the world going forward. So yes, we have that opportunity, and I'm pleased that we're working together on the clean power side. Think of the Northwest Conservation Corridor, the NCTL transmission line as one example there. We're working in a way that for conventional energy is lowest carbon as well. So thank you.
And that will have time for